It's been a while since I've done a reading, and so I thought maybe it was time to do another one. The book I'm going to do today is a book that came out in March. It is an expanded and updated version of a book that came out as part of a collection of other things. I've done many other changes to that world, expanded it and such. So a lot of the same stuff is there, but there's a lot more characters. I think it's a much richer story now than it was, and it's the perfect lead up into what's going to be my Wildstone series. In this particular case, the book title is Ghost of an Inheritance. I don't have the audiobook yet because the narrator who is going to do the book and has done many of my books, Vicki Pierce, has been dealing with some health issues. Wonderful COVID, right? So bless her heart, I'm sending all my prayers to her that she can get better for herself, but also because I love her voice and how she does them for the books. She did my Billionaires of Wrecked series. She did the Lilac City historical series that's set in Wyoming in the 1905-1906 time period. She's done a couple of the books in the Safe Harbor series. She was my choice when I redid A Change of Plans and updated it and expanded that. And that's pretty much what I've done here with this one, Ghost of an Inheritance. The premise of the story is it's a family from Sacramento, a family of twins, no less, which I thought was a fun idea. They have two sets of fraternal twins, but then they also have a set of identical twins. And the boys are hilarious. But they find out that their father is in line to inherit, or does inherit, excuse me, a castle in northern Washington. Now, it's a fictional area because I like to have the freedom to do what I want to do with a story, but I like to be able to draw on what might actually be in place already. And so that's what I did. They're very close to the border with Canada in the Pacific Northwest, about half an hour from the coast. Imagine lots of forest that kind of surrounds this area. And in fact, I even had my son do up a map for me and kind of lay things out for it, because they inherit a project interrupted. That's actually a term that one of the characters uses to talk about it. I imagined Williamsburg as the inspiration for something like this, where it's historical. In this particular case, it hasn't happened yet, but it's what their ancestor, their cousin that they only knew a little bit about, who died childless, and Mr. Savage, Roger Savage, is the one who inherits. So he and his 5 children, one of the children died a couple of years ago. The story is inspired by Oscar Wilde's Canterville Ghost. I saw that movie when I was raising my family, and I think I've seen 4 versions of it. It's been fun to see what people have done with it over the years. But I liked the idea of having a ghost that wasn't too scary, because I'm not really into horror or super scary things. And I wanted him to actually touch the heart of the reader, this poor ghost. And but it's that whole funny thing about somebody from the 1700s dealing with modern day. But it's a castle that was dismantled from Ireland about the 1850s. Somebody made it rich off the gold rush and decided to bring the old family home to northern Washington, where they bought like 500 acres. And so the story opens with Sir Hugh Savage. He is the ghost, and we just know that he's kind of, because the castle was moved, he kind of got lost in the mixture. So anyway, I apologize that I don't have a great Irish accent. I will do my best, but I hope it's not too distracting. Anyway, Chapter 1. Hugh directed his attention to the haze which should be the main hearth, and willed it to take shape. At first, nothing changed. Narrowing his eyes, he increased his concentration. The blur sharpened into focus, and 'twas his fireplace. They had failed to keep him away, not permanently. How long had it been? Only on rare occasions had he interacted with the interlopers who had stolen his home. He stood to his full height and straightened the ghostly cape of his Irish regimental uniform. At long last, after struggling for much too long, he had triumphed and found his sense of self again. The fiends would now face the wrath of the true owner of the Savage Citadel. But would they? True, he had regained some of his power. Too little of his power. It should not take all his strength to simply take form. Perhaps 'twas like when one had been ill and spent many long days in a sick bed. It had only happened to him once, but he had required weeks to regain his vigor. It appeared Hugh must work to restore his strength, but where to begin? 'Twas not his ability to be present, which he must improve upon, but his power to haunt. He turned his attention to the small framed painting sitting on the mantel. It had an odd shine to it. Scowling, he peered more closely. The men wore uniforms Hugh did not recognize, and stood before a strange carriage of a type he would have only imagined in a nightmare. How much time had passed since they had ripped him from his castle? Irritated at himself for his interest in the painting, Hugh shook his head. He extended his arm toward the mantel, thinking to run his fingers along the top. They passed through the stone instead. He curled his lip. As he focused his energy on his hand, it turned solid. Smirking to himself, he wrapped his fingers around the wooden frame of the picture and lifted it into the air. Success! He crowed, for once caring not a whit, that such a sound was beneath his dignity. A gasp from behind startled him, and his hand turned translucent again. Without substance, his fingers lost their grip. The picture crashed to the hearth and shattered. Livid, he spun, refocusing his power. He fueled his will with anger, and for the first time in a very long time, felt his entire body take form. The gray-haired woman gave a satisfying shriek before covering her mouth with her hands. "Remove yourself from my home at once," he commanded, his voice menacing. He kicked a piece of the broken frame, and it flew toward her. With a cry, the maid ducked and ran from the room. Hugh straightened his cape again and turned back to the fireplace. With more confidence, he traced his fingers along the mantel. Memories came rushing back as he did so. They had disassembled his home. With every stone they had carried away, it had been as though bits of him disappeared, until he was merely a single thought, drifting and lost, tied always to the citadel. How long had he been trapped in that purgatory state, neither heaven nor hell, neither here nor there, away from all he had left, of his little Moira. He ran his hand along the mantel again, this time searching for the pattern. His breath caught. 'Twas not there. Frantic, he felt his way along the stonework again. Nothing. What had they done with it? Hugh howled his rage. And I hope my narrator can get back to this, so we'll be able to upload this audiobook. I hope you enjoyed it. The book is also available on Amazon, and as a paperback and as an ebook. Thank you for listening today.